Well, thank you guys. Welcome back again. This afternoon, one of the sessions that we'll be covering, obviously you already know the distribution. You guys get to stay here for this portion of the presentation. Then once we're done with this presentation, Brian will come over here, and then I'll move over there so you guys stay comfortable where you are. You don't have to move equipment or anything like that. So with that said, this is where we discuss our ITMS 8.1 upgradation / migration scenarios, okay, for anybody that is starting to think of moving. Of course, we have a couple of members here in the audience that have done it already. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Tomas Chinchilla. Obviously, you've known this. I'm going to be co-presenting with Ian Atkins from Oxford University, who's going to be talking about his upgrade scenario to 8.1 and his experiences on how that went. I will focus more on the areas of the options. What are the options for moving to 8.1, right? Upgrade scenarios, migration scenarios, off-box migration. I'll be talking about a particular off-box migration scenario that is a little bit different to what you traditionally have done with the forwarding and things like that. Then I'll discuss some of the best practices, lessons learned from when we performed the EAP, which is our early adopter program that I've been running for Symantec for a while now, where we assist customers in moving to the latest and greatest versions of the platform. So throughout the years, I kind of built this little, multi-step approach to how to complete it in under a week. And it's been working so far so good. So. And then obviously I'll pass it over to Ian to speak about his experiences, his upgrade experiences, and obviously we'll open it up for Q&A, and I hope that we can answer all your questions. With that said, so let's move into what are the upgrade options or migration options to ITMS 8.1, right? There is the upgrade, right? It's an in-place upgrade. Guys, it's no different from installing a hotfix. It's not different from installing an upgrade. I mean, it's no different. You basically open the SIM, assuming that you're the latest and greatest. If you're on specifically 7.6 HF7 or 8.0 HF6, then you're good to go from an upgrade perspective. I'll talk about the approaches and what things to watch out for and to look out for during the upgrade. On this scenario, obviously, is the quickest and easiest method, right? I mean, if you are in an environment where you're happy with your hardware platform, if you don't have to do OS upgrades, if you're not looking to move forward to the greatest and latest of hardware platforms and OSs, then this is the way to go, right? This is the way to go. It's the easiest. All your settings are retained. There's really nothing to write home about. You will basically stop all your agent policies and things that need to stop to make sure that nothing automatically kicks in after the upgrade. Once you upgrade, you turn on your agent upgrade policies and things like that, right? Just in a staggered approach the way you want it. Really minimal operational downtime. Some of the experiences that we've had from customer to customer during the upgrade in place, depending on the speed and the power of the hardware platform, we've seen anything from 40 minutes to an hour. I mean, literally, the upgrade time has been cut tremendously from that. So just ensure that you got backups done, recent backups. If you're running in VMs, just make sure you run some snapshots and so that you're covered there from a backup perspective. But so far, so good. I'll tell you a little bit more about the approach for that. And then you have the second use case of, OK, I need to move my infrastructure to a brand new servers, right? I need to move to a new SQL box because somebody's asking you to do that. Or maybe it's an OS upgrade, right? You're moving to the latest and greatest in OSs, and you need to do that from a platform perspective. How do I do that, right? There are multiple migration scenarios that come into play in here, and I'll talk about that in a minute. What are the pros and cons for this approach? Obviously, you can either do a clean, fresh database on a migration, where you start with a net new database, net new installation of 8.1, and we do inventory forwarding and replication rules, right? So you kind of start from scratch, but yet you can bring some components over. Now, there's some manual work to do here, okay? It's not all done for you, so to speak, right? No downtime, because the risk is lower, right? If you're doing a side-by-side migration and you're starting new, your production environment continues to be up and running. Once you get this place where you want it to be, all the configuration files, all your things, your software library, your patch library, all that stuff, then you start redirecting a couple of clients over, and that's how you get rolling. So minimal downtime is not really that much. It's longer, increased complexity, quite a bit of manual configuration steps from a platform perspective, okay? But I won't focus so much on that. You guys seen this slide earlier today, which is basically all the platforms that we're supporting with 8.1. The reason I plugged this in here is because I wanted to mention that SQL Server 2016 is supported, okay? So we're supporting SQL Server 2016. We support Windows Server 2016 as a client, as a site server, not the SMP. Not supported today as part of the SMP. That's something that's coming later. We're working on providing an ETA for that. So then that's why you see the asterisk here. So, you know, not supporting SMP, but everything else you should be fine. Okay? And point in case, a few of the EAPs that we did have 2016 on the back end, on the SQL back end, as well as site servers, and some even on cloud-enabled management gateways. We got 2016 as well. Okay? Right now, we're working on it. There is a large degree of QA that needs to take place to make sure that it's not a matter of whether it will run or not. It's a matter of, like, we need to make sure that we're confident that we're not going to tell you to go somewhere that we don't know what you're going to run into. Right? A year? Ideally, I always say the next major revision, but no, that's not true. It definitely won't happen on RU1 because RU1 is basically on top of us, so that's not going to happen there. So for me to commit to you, say at the end of the year, it'll probably be pushing it. But let's just say end of the year, maybe beginning of next. I'm hoping, but again, it's hoping. Don't quote me on that. All right? All right, let's move forward. Again, Brian popped this up earlier today. Please, if you haven't done so, just check your platform support matrix to see what OSs, what platforms you can run on site servers and SMPs as clients, things of that nature. Okay? So, data migration capabilities. So our data migration capabilities are basically done via replication, right? If you are in a supported state, meaning 7.6 HF7 and above, then yes, you'll be supported to do data replication, to do this migration capabilities, right? You can do it from multiple versions of ITMS. Again, this is a repeat, 8.1 HF6 as well. You have to be at that supported path for a migration. You can basically export and import data between the different versions of ITMS, like I say, using replication rules, forwarding. One thing to note that is important, when you're doing this, when you're doing your replication rules, for example, I want to replicate my filters, tasks, policies, the resources and the security components that are associated to that will come over to the new platform, including security, assuming that those devices have an active policy, task, and such associated with them. If you have, which is traditionally that's going to be the case, if you have machines that fall out of that, then they won't come over, right? And that's some of the gotchas of your typical migration doing it this way, right, with data replication and things like that, if that makes sense. Again, if you look at your migration scenarios, it allows you to reuse data objects from ITMS implementations. You start with a clean database, move stuff over. You keep your old notification server, your production notification server fully functional, and so on, right? Implementation tips. This is my favorite one. During the EAP, I think I covered the spread of use cases with the different EAP customers that you've seen today, and some you will see tomorrow at the EAP roundtable, where we've done in-place upgrades, no-brainer. I think we completed one over a weekend, end-to-end almost, right? Except for some minor cleanup after the fact, right? Over a weekend. We started Saturday. By Saturday afternoon, we were done. And we, how many servers? About 1,500?
For the agents, or are you talking about as far as servers, infrastructure? One hierarchy, two hierarchy,
Oh, no, single. Single notification server. Yes. Yeah. And we have another use case.
6 servers in a weekend? Would that be 5 servers?
I don't see a problem. Why not? I mean, remember, any ITMS implementation, whether it's an upgrade or off-box, that I've done within the last 7 years, it's 80% planning, 20% execution. You know, plan, execute once.
You mean you're going to go into like some of the cleanup stuff?
I'll go in through some of that. And by the way, if you see me missing something in here, just bring it up. Let's talk about it. Like I said, I like my presentations to be dynamic as a group. I mean, not just me killing you by slides. But yes, can it be done? Yes, it's all in the planning. What am I going to do? Am I going to do off-box? If I'm going to do off-box, then we'll talk about the use case there. But if it's an upgrade, it's an upgrade. It's a no-brainer. Okay? And we'll talk about that. Traditionally, from a tips perspective, if you're planning an off-box upgrade and to reintroduce new hardware, new OSs, I traditionally recommend we use the existing database. There is a myriad of reasons for you to want to do that, and I'll cover them in a minute, okay? That's my recommendations. I've only been doing this for 7 years. Not just me, I don't do it. I'm just the guy that organizes the resources. I got the smart people coming with me, okay? I'm not the technical guy. Basically, using the same, standalone replication rules and migrates a lot of data that cannot be exported, actually. So data that cannot be exported, replication rules will move them, okay? But like I say, this use case, although it's a great use case, there is leave stuff that needs to be done manually, and you need to be prepared for those. And there is no problem with it. You just need to be aware of it, okay? Any questions so far about this migration? Not? All right. Moving forward. All right, this is my favorite one. Now, we've always done this off-box migrations via replication, forwarding, and things like that. This is nothing earth-shattering, nothing new, but it's not your typical use case that folks will like to do. And during this past EAP, we found, this is the easiest way to do a migration, guys. The easiest. And I'll tell you what. Basically, you take the same database you use today in production. You basically run a backup. A brand new backup of that database the day that you're doing the upgrade. Okay? Now, before you do that, you want to make sure that you're in one of those supported states. If you do a backup of 7.5, not going to work, guys. If you do a backup of 7.6 and it's not at HF7, not going to work, guys. You got to be at the recommended prescriptive path, right? Make sure you're at that version. Run you a fresh backup of the database. Once you have a fresh backup of the database, then you can export and import. Basically, you restore that copy of that database into your brand new SQL box. So you're going to take that backup, import it. Right after you import it, there's a couple things that need to happen. I'll tell you later on my little checklist that I will show you in a minute. But once you do that, then you're going to run the 8.1 installation manager on the new SMP, pointing to that existing database that you just restored, and it will upgrade that database in place. What are the benefits of that? Get to keep all your data, get to keep all your configurations, all your policies, all of everything. There's some minor stuff that you need to do to that, after the fact. Like, I'd like to do SQL tuning. I like to make sure that we point the software library to, maybe the software library is something you have off-box. And that doesn't change because it's the same database. Yeah, I'm pointing to the same thing, right? Not a problem. But maybe you want to switch over, which was one of the use cases. Yeah, I'm pointing to an old software library over here, but, we really want to use the Alterius, the different configuration which says this is a software library, not a UNC path, maintain everything within ITMS. Then there is the copy of the files, moving it over to the ITMS server, and then the changing of all of your software packages to point to the new library, so to speak, right? So we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is the fastest, most efficient way to do it. There are customers that say, well, the reason I want to do a new implementation is because I want to get rid of the trash. In reality, you never do, right? Because if you do the replication, you're still bringing stuff over. Historical data, maybe not, but you're still bringing a lot of stuff over. It's easier to take this approach and clean up on the back end than it is to do it the other way. But again, the use cases are there. You pick your poison, right? You can do that. Yes, sir?
Trying to understand this scenario. So you've got a separate SMP that you've installed 8.1 clean on with a clean database, and then you're restoring your existing database on top of that?
That's the first use case. No. That's the first use case is you take your existing database. No, I'm sorry. You install a new SMP with a new database. That's a total different use case. That's the one that I explained before, where at that point you're done. You're installed. You have a database. At that point, you're just going to do replication rules, migration wizard. You're going to move your software package. You're going to move everything. So there's a lot of steps you need to do there. Totally supported, totally fine, not a problem. A little more time consuming. This second scenario is what I call the in-place database upgrade, where you take a backup of your existing SMP database. And this is a brand new SMP, brand new SQL Server. You take that backup, you restore it on the new SQL Server. And then you run, then after that database is already there, is when you run the installation on the new SMP, pointing it to that database, and it will do an in-place upgrade of that database. Does that make sense?
So at the step when it's time to create your database, you say existing database,
point to an existing database, and it will like upgrade it in place. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a really, let's say hypothetically you were going from 7.5 or something like that. This is a nice way to sort of make that hop, skip, and jump, because you can't go straight from the older versions straight to this one. This lets you do those sort of hop, skips, and jumps without really impacting your user base. So you can do the exact same strategy and go from 7.5 to 7.6 and 7.6 to 8.1 and without anyone really feeling anything.
it makes your fallbacks a lot easier at that point.
Yeah.
And then once you're complimenting that new system, migrate your clients and you're good to go.
Yeah, and then think about it. I mean, I heard you say fallback. It's not really a fallback, because you remain, your environment remains. It hasn't gone away. You get a brand new environment that literally the only thing that changes is the server name and maybe an SSL certificate, right? It's a brand new server, but it's the same system. All you have to do then is do the agent redirection at that point, and I'll talk about that, the proper way of doing that. Yes, Michael.
And all I can say to follow up with this is the exact thing that we just had at the hospital. And it was super slick, really quick, easy. So,
Yeah.
and we were going from 7.5, so we didn't have to upgrade to 7.6.
Yeah, which is another thing that I'll mention. Thank you, Mike. It's another thing that I mentioned. So in his case, they were at 7.5, and I have a couple of customers that have done 7.5, the triple hub, right? And there were some concerns about, oh, I'm going to have to upgrade 3 times, and you relax. The day off, let's say you do all your planning, 2 weeks of planning, 3, whatever it takes you to do your planning, and the day off this project, or the night before, just take your 7.5, upgrade the server only. Just the main SMP. That's all we need. All we need is that database. Upgrade the SMP to 7.6 or 8.0 to those particular versions. And at that point, you don't even have to upgrade agents, no site servers, none of that. You're just doing it just as an entrance step. It'll take you 40 minutes to an hour to do that. Then back up the database, move it over, start fresh, do your thing that you need to do, and then redirect your agents. Life is good. And me. I'm making it sound super overly simplified. It is. No, I'm kidding. But it's the easiest, fastest approach. And again, we'll talk about this in detail. So with that said, again, I recommend that you keep using the existing database. We can clean it up later. Unless you're at a point where you truly don't trust that thing, right? But honestly, this is super easy and simple. I'd rather clean it, okay? And we learned that the hard way. So, with that said, what's coming next is not pretty, it's not beautified, but it is the checklist that I've used for years of doing this stuff and doing it effectively. I don't think we've ever had a botched EAP, period, right? Everything, when I run an EAP, it's months of prepping. That's why I say 80% prep, 20% execution. I get with my AP customers and we start, what do you want to do? You want to do an in-place? You want to do an off-box? And if we're going to do an off-box, do you have the servers? Make sure it's got this many CPUs. Make sure the site server meets that criteria. SQL servers, if you want to do SQL virtualized, I kind of grinch a little bit. I don't like, truth be told, guys, I've said this many times in presentations. I totally dislike SQL virtualized. It's just such an iffy platform when you run it that way. And of course, you have different maturity levels, different customers. You know, we are the kings of virtualization. It's okay, I'll take your word for it. But the performance impact on a SQL database, remember, we're not your standard database that is constantly writing at a particular rate of speed. No, we come in and all of a sudden we're dead, and the spike goes through the roof, and then we'll go back down to that, right? So virtualization platforms sometimes cannot account for that unless you're the latest and greatest on virtualization technology. So If you can avoid going virtualized, avoid it at all costs. If you are going to go virtualized, fine, no problem, we support it. I want to see 75 to 90% reservation on that host. I'm not joking. You know, especially if you're a rather large environment, 75, 90% reservation on the host for your SQL. The SMP, I'm not worried about it, right? Again, on the SQL side of the house, performance lies not only within the CPUs and the memories, those things we know about, IOPS, 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 IOPS. Got to be up there. So let's say that you're in an environment, you're running 20,000 endpoints on a single SMP, on a single notification server, 20,000 endpoints. I always recommend, okay, take your hard drive configuration on your SQL server and say, I'm going to split this into 3 or 4 different logical drives, right? Different hard drives, you know, obviously. If you're on the SAN, if at all possible, give me different LUNs on these drives, right? Where you say, I have a drive on a different LUN for logs. Logs is the one that we write the heaviest to. I want to see at the very least 650 IOPS or north of that, especially if you're a larger customer. We have customers who have gone Fusion IO, but we're talking about customers at 100 plus thousand endpoints, right? 650 IOPS at the very least, and then you have your data drive, which is where your database lives. Again, that type of speed. I'm looking for that type of 10 dB in the OS can be a little less in the 400 range, but logs and data, highest IOPS. And every time I've had a customer complain about performance and we've moved them to that, problems go away. Performance, the console loads, everything starts working fine. It's all mostly within the database, okay? And we'll talk about, I'll have some other details that I'll cover here about that. But anyways, so here's my approach to any planning for an upgrade or a migration. You know, weeks, if not months of preps. Make sure the hardware's there. Make sure that we have resources available. We're there for a week, just a week. We do this within a week. Call me in on Monday. Make sure we run a backup. Make sure we get the database. Snapshot if it's virtual. Then we do a health check, okay? And this is where a lot of customers, we run into different weird things, like SMPs with pending reboots, like pending restart, right? And this is a condition that we find almost in 85% of the time, right? Pending restart, okay, let's reboot it. We find conditions where the SMP didn't have enough drive space, right? So again, check for your drive space, check for the C drives, your D drives, make sure the platform is installed on the right drive. Check your SMP logs. If you don't know what was there before, how can you judge how the upgrade go? So we've seen this before where they were having issues before, didn't notice upgrade, see a lot of red, oh my God, everything went wrong. No, that was there before, right? Check your logs, make sure that it's nothing too crazy or wrong to see reds, so long as you understand what they are. They're coming from an invalid patch. Okay, I'm not too stressed about that. That's something we can fix later. An invalid client certificate here and there, that's something we can deal with it later, right? Unless you see a massive, like a big problem with your software library, or you see a big problem with performance, right? But check the logs, make sure you're comfortable with what you're seeing, not only on the Altera stuff, but on the Windows side. And again, your disk space, and then, again, your operating system stuff, okay? Any questions around this so far? And I'm going to go into more detail about some of this stuff.
Step back on the DB upgrade, in-place upgrade path you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you install a new SMP, you point it to that database. There's some things that are part of the file system of the SMP. Do those get manually copied over, like the repository of software?
Yeah, so that you need to move over manually. So if you have a software repository, and I'll go into that in a minute. If you got to move it. Same thing with the patch library. Move it, and then run you a PM import. Do the supersede so that it actually cleans some of the stuff that is there. So I'll go into that. Maybe not too technical, but I'll go into it. But yes, there is a couple manual steps, but trust me, they're way better than doing a regular migration. Okay. So here's kind of that checklist that I was talking about, right? Again, I cannot say this enough. Plan your upgrade. Infrastructure design, your SQL, non-virtualized, if it is 90% reservation. IOPS, big deal, IOPS. Data and logs on separate drives with the highest IOPS. I've said this before. Back up the existing databases, right? And then you restore into the new SQL server. back up your KMS keys. I got some screenshots later on so that you guys see where they live at. If you didn't do it at the beginning when you first install your original SMP, you can still come back and do it with the Symantec Installation Manager, the SIM. You fire up the SIM, and there will be an option there to back up your KMS. This is important because your database is encrypted with these keys. So when you do the new installation on top of that existing database to upgrade it, it will ask you to restore the KMS keys to the encrypt, okay? Some of the stuff. And then before you back up your KMS keys for restore later when we're installing, and then right when you restore your database, everything is ready to go to run the install. Before you do that, then I want you to truncate those following tables, right? Basically what this will do is it will stop any active tasks on that SMP. Basically, any active task, stop them. We don't want to have anything happen after the upgrade. Server task instance requests, instance states, instance requests from the client, and then truncate your agent blacklist, because what happens is there's a lot of trash that gets put in there over the years. Just get rid of it. Let it come net new. Also, you run the command to change the instance status from a 3 to a 1, which basically puts it into a stop state, which is different than that one. Then once you have your database ready, the next thing I typically do before running the actual installation, which will upgrade the database in place, I always like to go through this with customers, okay? Because 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, it depends, we run into a lot of unconfigured environments that they just install ITMS on top of SQL. Life is good. Maybe they never saw big performance impacts, or never they didn't know better, right? And what I see in most cases, this is not set. Max, minimum degree of parallelism, not set. We set that to 20. Legacy, then ad hoc workloads need to be turned on. Memory, it's one thing that I don't see a whole lot of people doing, which is SQL memory. So you take a SQL server, let's say you have 64 gigs of memory on that server, and that server is totally dedicated to you. It's dedicated to your environment. There's nothing else, no other instances running on that but yours. You know it's yours. You got 64 gigs of memory. In SQL, I want you to dedicate 60 of those gigs to the SQL database and leave 4, or whatever you're comfortable with, or 8 for the server itself to run, especially if there's nothing else running in it. Run very minimal to run the OS, because what this will do is it will pre-allocate that memory for SQL purposes. Your performance will jump off. Okay, make sense so far? All right. So all those little configuration changes that you need to make into that database, your upgrades also will go a whole lot faster of that database. We did tests where we had one without, one with all the settings. We ran the upgrade in place, 30% faster. 30% faster, just by having your settings set. By the way, at the end, before we publish this, I will add links to the end of this presentation to where I'll tell you there is KBs with this information and tech articles on proper SQL tuning on Connect. Okay, we have those in there, as well as some SQL maintenance stuff. All right, and then last but not least, just install your ITMS 8.1 on top of that database, as we talked about before. My next topic of conversation, anytime we're doing this, is let's mine the certificates, right? Okay, so you're upgrading from one server to the other. You're switching server names, right? Hopefully, you're in a domain where the domain is either routable, okay, or you're not switching domains. Do you guys know the difference? And if anybody doesn't, I'll go through it. But anybody know the difference between a routable domain and non-routable domain? And I'm not talking routable to the internet. I'm talking the domain name. So you got back in my day, doing AD administration, we used to set the forest to a .local, right? .local, .global, .blah, right? Those are non-routable domains. Back in the day, you used to be able to get certificates for those things. Not anymore. So routable domain is one that ends in .com, .org, .net. It doesn't have to be publicly visible through the internet, but that is a routable domain. So if you own that domain, so let's say coach.com, for example, right? Not to call you out, but then I own that name. So I can actually go get me a certificate that matches my name, coach.com. So I can, maybe my internal environment is, alteraserver1.global.coach.com. You can get either a certificate associated with that complete FQDN, or if you can get you a wildcard certificate and slap it on the SMP, and because it's a wildcard, you can now put it in all your site servers as well, right? Because they're assuming that they're all in the domain, they will all match your FQDN of that certificate. Does that make sense so far? Yeah? Okay. Any questions about the certificates? Okay. So, assuming you're in that scenario, right? You're covered. Because all you have to do is take a copy of that wildcard certificate, put it in the new server in IIS. Same thing with your task servers, site servers should all have them anyways, because all you're doing is redirecting them to a new server. So that doesn't change. Okay? If you're in the middle of deciding, if you're going to run your environment in HTTPS, and you're in the middle of deciding what certificate should I go with, there is no silver bullet. This is very simple. My preference, number one preference, internally, PKI. If you have your own PKI infrastructure, use it. That is a shot in the ground. I mean, that's just the surest thing you can do, right? If all your assets are in your Active Directory, they trust the PKI, then you're good. You don't have to be pushing certificates or anything like that. Worst case scenario, it's a self-signed certificate, right? But it comes with its own nuances, right? You got to push it into trusted certification authorities, to clients, and things like that. Okay, are we good so far? All right, now that we're off the certificate conversation, remember, that will change in an off-box migration. That will change. So you need a new certificate, whether it's PKI, commercial, or self-signed, you do need a new certificate. Do not, yeah, go ahead.
I would just mention on the certificates, especially with CEM, and we went through this practice where we had to change from the authentication from SHA-1 to SHA-2. What worked for us is you have to reissue that cert, right? So now you got to get it out there. So once you change it, you're like locked out. So just keep that in mind if you're fully remote.
Yeah.
You want to upgrade, maybe if you have the rule of thumb, right? Two gateways.
Yep.
So at least at a minimum. So you update one gateway, let your client still talk to that one. That guy updates, and then it's going to start going to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe wait a month or a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
then update the other one, and now you're back in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
Update the gateway first, and then update the SMP, and then
Yeah.
update the other gateway.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that, because that's happened a lot lately with customers doing certificate upgrades on gateways, maybe because they expire, maybe because they finally got to get their commercial certificate. Finally, it's like, okay, now I'm off of self-sign. Now I can get my commercial certificate. And what happens is they slap it everywhere. At that point, communications just stop. They just come to a halt because nobody can authenticate. The clients are not aware of what happened. My policy says something different. I'm not aware of any new certificates. So it's always a rule of thumb. That's why when I started this whole SEM conversation back in the 7.5 days, I've always said, at the very least, 2 gateways. At the very least. Because of failover, load balancing capabilities, but more importantly, when it comes time to change the certificate, do one at a time, let it sit through for a couple of weeks, right? So that your clients get the new policies with the new thumbprints and the new everything. And obviously, hopefully you guys already, this is pre-assumed. When you change the certificate on a gateway, you got to upgrade the configuration on the SMP side, right? With the new thumbprint. But anyways, and once that's done, then switch over to the second gateway. Life should be good, okay? All right, moving along. You see that in big? Do not. Do not reboot the server immediately post-install. I've seen this happen time and time again where we ran your SMP upgrade and you seem to be having so much success. Why the hell did ours just break? It's just something is not working. DS stopped working. The fun thing is DS will work the day after. They will, seriously. Because what happens is if you do this, there is a lot of post-tasks that the SMP has to run after the upgrade. And if you kill it, basically you're killing that process. And there are processes that only run overnight. So you won't see that again until the next day. So sure thing, we spent an entire day troubleshooting why DS wasn't working. Couldn't figure it out that night. We were all tired. Let's continue to work on this tomorrow morning. First thing in the morning when we get in. Okay, went to sleep, came back the next morning, DS is working. Hey, So do not give it a couple hours. Give it 2-3 hours. Let it sip through. Let the performance in the server, and you can judge it by the performance of the server. It's going to be pegged out at the beginning, and then everything will start calming down, right? And then when you start doing your agent redirects and things like that, and things start behaving, go ahead and reboot it if you need to, okay? But not right after the upgrade. And then at that point, you can go ahead and install your licenses. You know, obviously you have to get your licenses installed on the new server because it's a new server. Beauty of that, as my friend here can attest, is now you can take all of your licenses, you can combine them in the portal. Okay? It's a new license format, but now you can take all of your licenses and combine them in the portal into one. Okay? You don't have to do the multiple thing. And at that point, traditionally what I like to do, you know, I put it here, turn all the agent plugins upgrades on, yeah, turn it on, but ideally you start targeting smaller groups, see how they go, make sure you're A-OK. Once you're A-OK, then fine. In an off-box scenario, though, it doesn't matter. Turn them all on because there's nobody actively reporting to it, right? Which is a beauty. You can turn all of those upgrades on, and then as soon as you start redirecting clients, then they'll start coming in and upgrading at that time. So you're in control of that process, if that makes sense, okay? And then here's where we touch on the software library redirect if needed, right? Some cases, you got customers that run straight UNC paths. Even though they have a library kind of defined, they still use UNC paths for their software packages when they upgrade them. At that point, if that SDLC is still up and running and nothing is going to happen to it and you know it's not going to come down, then there's nothing to change. There really isn't anything to change. This changes is when you truly want to change your mechanism, or if you did define your CMDB, your software library, and it is on the SMP, then you take a copy of that, right, of the old SMP, all the software packages, all where your software library is, and you copy it over to the new server on the location you desire, right, and then you share that to that whatever path you're going to use. Okay, make sense so far? Okay. Again, patch management redirect. Again, that's kind of down the same path. It's just basically bring over your patch management folder library for all the updates, right? And copy them either on the same location or just switch the location on the SMP. And then run you a PM import. I typically do that at the very end of the day before we all go home for the night. PM import, you can hit that supersede switch. And there's an additional setting there that I didn't put in here that basically uses to clean up old patches and the supersedes. And then this is the one where I'm also going to post a link to this. We have a pretty nice and neat script that was created by a bunch of folks from our support and engineering teams, the Mike Ulrichs of the world, the Doug Butlers. They wrote a script that basically you called out from SQL. Because right now, one of the things you can do is you go to SQL and you backup, defrags, index. You can do all that. But our team built this amazing script that basically analyzes the current state of your SQL database, and it chooses to do indexing and defragmentation basically ad hoc. I run the script, it's not bad, I'm going to back off and only run it reindexed. Or the other way around, or it needs to run everything, right? So basically you download the script and you paste it into your maintenance settings within SQL Server. And that script is available on Connect. I'll post the link at the end of the presentation for you guys to have it, okay? It's super advanced. I cannot stress this one enough, guys. ACC account. Anybody not familiar with an ACC account? Okay? All right, so most of you have a service account for Altiris, right? Most of you have a service account for Altiris. The one and only. One of the things that I've seen during upgrade scenarios and upgrade process, whether it's upgrade, migrations, you name it, right, is where it comes time to redirect the first or second site servers. We're good, the SMP is looking pretty, the data is there, all the machines, from an inventory perspective, they're there. They're not truly reporting yet directly to it. So you're ready to move the first site server in order for you to start redirecting the first couple of clients and getting packages. One of the things that we've seen, there's a timing issue between the site server moving from one server to the other. Don't ask me what happens technically, but one of the things that we've seen is all of a sudden, and it doesn't happen every time, the service account starts getting locked. And 5 minutes later, lock. Unlock it. 10 minutes later, lock. God almighty. And it's agents trying to do this authentication to a server that no longer belongs to that server. Does that make sense when you redirect it? So there is an ACC account setting within the SMP that basically is agent connectivity credentials. So what we do is basically you can clone your existing service account and create you another account that starts with AAC. I'm sorry, ACC, right? Agent connectivity credentials, and you set that new account under that setting on the SMP. Anything SMP site server related happens through your regular service account. Everything you do from a maintenance perspective, database connectivity, blah. But anything that happens from an agent server communications happens on a different account. So that if you lock one, the other one continues to work. Okay? You're not locking your entire environment down, right? And you're not compromising that server, that true service account for the server. That make sense so far? So recommend it, create you one, do it today. Get your AD team to create you one, clone the existing one, and go change that setting and add you that new account in there. It's going to save your bacon. Chris?
Make it an extremely low privileged account. Like, domain user is all you really need.
Is all you really need? I didn't go that far, but thank you. So he said make it a low, what? Low privilege account. Okay, domain user? Okay, okay.
One thing
Cool.
that we did as well is that we prevented the accounts from locking out. When we do our upgrades, don't have your accounts locking out. We have a script which runs on our server which lets us know when things are authenticating badly, and so we get notified of that, but the account doesn't get locked out. And when we do upgrades, yeah, we see all these things coming in from the bad authentication set. And there's also a bug in agent upgrades that has two forks for the encryption of the agent credential. And so sometimes the decryption doesn't work, and so authenticate with a bogus password as part of the upgrade process. But once the agent's all upgraded, then that settles down.
Okay, thank you. All right, so do that. Continue, redirect your first site server, validate that site server is working. There is a known tech article that we created. We've seen this, and so keep up with me. When you do this side-by-side migration, okay? Remember, we're taking a copy of your database and we're restoring it on the other side, and then we're upgrading that database. Technically speaking, when we upgrade a database, okay? Remember, this is now a new server name, a new everything. So during the upgrade process, the process basically wipes out the old server name and replaces it with its own, right? During the upgrade. Technically speaking, when we run an upgrade, we change and reconfigure things that are marked as system settings. Anything that is marked with that check mark internally in our code base as system, we upgrade, we move names, we replace names, we do everything we need to do. We started seeing this pattern, and finally after the second EAP we realized what was going on, where we did that, and all of a sudden the first upgrade that we did on the task server wasn't working. Wasn't working. Task server will never register with DNS, and what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Then out of a hunch is like, do you guys create, so you know where you set site server settings? Where you create different settings. One is for task server settings for the SMP only, limit the number of connections to 100 to 200, and then you create the ones where it's like, okay, go crazy, right? 7,500 connections, not a problem, right? But customers do that, right? The problem is they replace I guess the core, the original one, and they now customize it because they clone it, they create their own. When we upgrade, we don't touch them. If you're having that problem and you right-click on that server task policy and you open an XML, look down, sure thing, you will see that thing is referencing the old server. Different ways to go about it. You can create a brand new one and recreate all the settings, or you can just right-click, export XML, edit the file manually, re-import it, you're home. Okay? That's as simple as that. Okay, I'll say it again, because I saw some faces going, what? If you see it, two ways about it is create a brand new one. Right-click on the main folder and say new site server settings or task agent settings, right? And then once you recreate that one, you have to target your servers. You have to do all that manually. The easier way, in my opinion, is right-click, export as XML, open the XML, replace the server name, save, go back to the console, re-import it, and it will basically override the one that's there. It won't create a new one. It will override the one that's there. So life is good. New server name. Do I think I got it right here. You see that one, Chris? That's for you.
I didn't come up with that. I just
Then run you a Dr. Moo. I know a couple of guys here know what that means. Delta Resource Membership Update. Call it Dr. Moo. He introduced me to it. He didn't create it, but he won't tell me who. So once you do that, every time you do a major change from a configuration perspective on the server, policies, task server assignments, things like that, if you're in a hurry and you want to see the effects, go run you a Dr. Moo. Go run your Delta Resource Membership Update. It's catchy, man. Everybody's picked up on that, right, Michael? And basically at that point, you go back to that site server and you say, check for new task, and sure thing, you'll see the machine connect, okay? Because, well, you gotta do update configuration first. You update your configuration, it will get the new policy. Once it gets the new policy, it finally gets the real server name, and check for task, boom, it'll connect right up to the SMP or itself at that point, right? Make sense so far? Okay. Site servers. I think Brian had a screenshot earlier today on the screen where he was showing now we have a new feature added into our site server management that if you're planning to make a site server a site server, if you hover over that server, it will tell you verbatim, right? It will tell you, yes, I can run, or no, I cannot make the server a site server because it's missing this, and it'll spell it out. I'm missing IIS.net, or I am missing HTTP, blah, 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 blah. It will tell you verbatim what it needs. So you can go back to that site server, run your server manager, and install all the components missing, and just send back a basic inventory after it's done, and all of a sudden you'll see, okay, yeah, I'm good to install on this server, all right? So that's a neat new feature that we added there into the console. So do that. Again, site server certificates on the SMP. Mind that too, especially if you run DS over HTTPS. We've seen where customers have that setting checked for automatically distributed certificates. That's great when you're doing either PKI or your own self-signed certificates. It's not great when you have a commercial certificate, right? A .com certificate, a valid, commercial certificate. Because at that point, if you have a wildcard, you don't want this to happen automatically. You want to go slap that certificate manually on those servers and leave them there. You don't want that automatic distribution because what that's going to do is going to take the core cert, it's going to act as its own certification authority, as its own CA, and it's going to generate certificates under that for that server. Most scenarios, that's fine, that works, but for some folks that are doing deployment solution over HTTPS, we've seen issues with that, so heads up, okay? And at that point, you can finally get to the meat and potatoes of what you want to do. Let's start redirecting agents. Once you have your first site servers, you got that process down, you understood it, life is good, my environment is stable, let's start redirecting a couple of the endpoints the proper way. And let me tell you what I mean by that. There is a prescriptive approach to this, right? We've seen migrations where people go to targeted agent settings, right? And they start adding machines to a new target agent settings to redirect. That's how you do it, most likely. And then once they do that, they add specific machines to that, and then they come back and say, oh yeah, but I'm going to exclude them from this target agent settings. At that point, that second setting could have gone out, right, if you had it turned on, and then it creates a mismatch on the agent. And we've seen that time and time again, where all of a sudden, the agent doesn't know where to go because it received two policies. So it'll continue to communicate to its old server. It will never jump over. Never. So what is the proper way? And I got a couple of screenshots. If you're in a supported platform, 7.6 and above, right? We introduced back in 7.6 something called agent communication profiles. Anybody seen it before? Anybody knows what I'm talking about? I got a couple of screenshots. But basically, it's a feature that we introduced where every piece of configuration we do to an SMP, now we save in a single profile, basically server name, whether that server is supposed to be HTTP, HTTPS, whether that server has a secure certificate, SEM is enabled or not. All those configuration settings, now we're keeping it into a single place that you can come in the console, right-click, export. It will export everything, including certificates. Okay? It'll allow you to encrypt it too. I'll show you the screenshots. Take that configuration profile that you created on the new server, because that's where you want people to go, bring it over to the old server, and import it now into connectivity, in your communication profiles on the old server. Now you have two communication profiles, its own and the one about the other server. Targeted agent settings, you create you a new targeted agent settings. And on the target agent settings, if you go back to advanced, it'll let you choose which communication profile you want to use for that targeted agent settings. And that's where you click on the edit and say, the new server. And it even gives you options for certificates and SIM and stuff like that, okay? Once that's saved, you think you're home? No, right? You got that. That is your redirect. Configure it whichever way you want, you got your redirect. Its target is 0. It's got 0 targets right now, right? Leave it like that. Don't start adding machines there. Don't do that. Go create you a filter, okay? An empty filter. Make it empty. Don't put anything on it yet. And name it 8.1 migration. Once you have that filter ready, come back to your target agent settings, include it into your new target agent settings, basically the one that is going to do the redirect. Anything that falls on that filter, I want you to move. Then go back to your other target agent settings that you have already predefined for site servers, for all computers, for all non-site server computers. And then what you're going to do now is you're going to edit their target, basically to exclude this new filter from it. So when you add machines to that filter, it'll automatically, on a whim, include and exclude fast. It'll do it automatically. I'm no longer part of that policy, but I'm on this policy. That makes sense so far? It happens immediately. There is no lag time. There is that one that causes that problem. When you're doing those include excludes, obviously the only include you're going to have is going to be on that new target agent settings, the redirect one. You can call it A1 migration to redirect and target the new server on their communication profiles and all this stuff. When you exclude from the other target agent settings, make sure you do it the proper way too, because remember, those are cumulative in nature. Those are additive. So there might be, you might have to basically take a screenshot of what's there, right? What's targeting? All computers that are blah, 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 all Windows computers, that, because it won't let you edit the original one. So you might have to do this. Take a screenshot or whatever you need to do, then remove that target, create you a new one that mimics what was there, and then right there, exclude. Does that make sense so far? Remember, they're additive in nature. If you can edit the original, you cannot just go add a new target because it won't work. Okay? We're good so far? Questions? Going once? Going twice? Yes, you will get a copy of that, and I will take your call and help you. Yes, sir.
One more thing you might want to mention is another authentication protocol is TLS.
Mm-hmm.
And if you decided if you wanted to change it, you have to do that on the local servers.
Mm-hmm.
The server has to support it first. You can't just click the site.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. All right, so that is, in my book, the proper way of doing it. I know I see a lot of people's faces going like, what? But trust me, we've done plenty of this. We've done enough of these to know that this is the method that is just bulletproof. It just works. I mean, anybody who's done EAP can attest to this. And then finally, you got SIM. Can we, include, exclude SIM? We can have a separate category, which is like, as I say there, for the gateways. From a gateway perspective, the certificates don't change. They're all the same. The gateways are the same. The site servers are the same. All we're doing is a redirect, right? That's it. So the only thing that really truly changes is the SMP, is a new server name with a new 8.1 installation with an upgraded database. Everything else is a redirect. Mind the certificate conversation on the SMP. Your task servers remain on the same domain, the same server names. They keep the same certificates. Nothing changes there. It's only that they're now reporting to a new server, and it'll get all the new code bases and things of that nature. Yes, sir.
Any upgrades to the task server as far as prerequisites? I think one of the last upgrades, one time we had upgraded to .NET, I didn't catch that in time and had to fix it later.
Yeah, so yes, it will tell you whether, like I said before, it will tell you whether it can or cannot be a site server or a task server, and it'll tell you why, and it'll tell you specific components you need to go install. Yeah, so it's there. Okay? And like I said, important note, do you run you a Dr. Moo after every major configuration change. Oh, quickly, I need to pass it over to Ian. Backing up and restoring the KMS files, the encryption files, easy. If you don't have them, if you didn't do it the first time around, launch your SIM, click on Repair Installed Products. Once you click here, you're brought to this window. Manage KMS keys. Perform a backup, and when you do the new installation, this window will pop up on the new installation and say you need to restore KMS keys from this database, and you perform restore, point to where that file is, put your password that you set in for the backup, because it'll ask you to encrypt it, put that password in, you're home, okay? Real quick, remember when I was talking about communication profiles? This is where it's at. I don't know how clear you can see that, but under settings, basically settings, all settings, if you come down to agents and plugins, semantic management agent, semantic management agent communication profiles, this is where you see the one SMP, your existing SMP or your new SMP communication profile that contains information about that new server, whether it's HTTP or HTTPS, information about all of its certificates, right? If it's got certificates associated with it, proxy settings, agent connectivity, SEM, everything it's included in there. Right-click, export. Bring that file over to the new server, to the old server, I'm sorry. This is on the new. Bring that file over to the old server, and you know, this is telling you how you can encrypt that, and you can include all cloud-enabled management configuration settings as well, right? When you bring this file to the old server, basically come out to the same place, and on the root folder, not here, on the root folder, just right-click, import profile. Now you have it. Cool? Any other questions for me? Going once, going twice. We'll have a Q&A at the end. Thank you very much. Ian, your turn, sir. Huh? Oh, yes, sorry. Sorry about that. Just one.
All right. Okay, I've not had any training on this. This should be interesting. So Thomas there covered so much stuff, and it was really important. The stuff is gone about the health checks, about knowing your environment, all that. When I sat there and I was thinking about the stuff we did for our EAP and the month we took to prepare for it and everything we did, everything there just resonated. And I hadn't even talked to Thomas at all, had I, before that? It was, but everything's just, this is stuff you just got to do. So I'm Ian Atkin. I'm from Oxford University. So I'm a trust advisor as well with Symantec. I've been on Symantec forums now for like over 10 years. I specialize mostly in deployment. But after a few years in deployment, we had to expand our environment. We then had to go to Altera 6 back then, 2006-ish. And so then I got more involved in larger CMS-type infrastructures, installations, and our environment's grown a bit. And I just like tinkering and getting under the hood of things and breaking things and fixing them, and then saying to the boss how good I am because I fixed it. So, Oxford University. So really old, reassuringly old. Really old buildings everywhere, looks really nice, fantastic city to walk around, it's beautiful architecture. Coming to Chicago, the architecture here as well is fantastic, walking around. It did remind me of Oxford, just in a bizarre way of just all this unique architecture everywhere. So we're pretty good, we're quite high in the rankings. We've just managed to get #1 in the world rankings. There's a big applause in the office for that, but Stanford will beat us next year, and then Cambridge will beat us again, and then we'll all be fighting, and then we'll get #1 again eventually. So we're quite proud of that. We are complex as an organization, so we're not a single enterprise. We're a collegiate research university, so 38 colleges, 70 departments, 20,000 students, which by US standards isn't like very high, but for us it's pretty big, and 5,000 staff. So that's quite a good staff-student ratio we got there. Because we're a collegiate university, what happens is that the colleges are legally independent bodies. So the Central University is more of an umbrella that holds all of these colleges underneath it. So I work in the centralized IT department, and we try and not sell those services, but we offer services out so people can take them or not. And the Altiera CMS service is one that we've now delivered to in one big batch, 3,500 staff machines, and then other people have their own smaller installations. Because some colleges go, well, we don't want to have that one, but we want to have a smaller one ourselves that we own, so that's fine. They'll set up their setup as well. So we kind of like it's a multiple business unit type, which makes driving change and upgrades quite complex for us. So over the years, we've been very pleased to see the infrastructure that's required by using Symantec, using CMS, gets simplified and simplified and simplified. So now you can just run it off all one NS in most scenarios. And last thing, working at Oxford, it's pretty amazing. It's really good. Really enjoy it. Oh yeah, that's just a reference from an old slide deck. Tolkien, from Oxford, yeah. Okay, so our main environment, 3,500 nodes, Windows 7, 60 subnets. Some of those subnets we manage directly through our networks team. Others are managed by other teams from the colleges, from departments, and so we don't always get full visibility of networking for the place that we're meant to be delivering the services, and that comes with its own complexities. We use inventory, software management, real-time, basically CMS. PC Anywhere in capital letters. Why have I put that in capitals? Anybody know? It's a bit dead. We still use it, but once we go to Windows 10, obviously, you can't. So we do deployment at the moment through GSS. So we don't use deployment server 7. It's the real-time nature of the console that our techs love for deployment. So that's where we've gone right now. And there's workspace virtualization. That's also been capitalized. Anybody know why that has been capitalized? It's also been EOL'd as well. So we'll shed more tears over some beer tonight. Our infrastructure, very simple. So we've got one SMP, one cloud gateway, one site server, and a backend SQL server. I have to reiterate again about the backend SQL server. Thomas made a good point about IOPS. I fought with our virtual infrastructure team because it is virtualized. It's because people have expectations. When you're running lots of servers, and the server teams just think it's another server, and they'll say, all you need is this, all you need is that. You'll then hit problems because you have to try and demonstrate to them that you need the extra resource. That's difficult because the only way you can really demonstrate it is by having your server die and then go through the months of pain saying, look, increase the resource, and then eventually you'll get to what you want. So we did virtualize. It was in the end successful, but it was painful. So we got top-tier storage for the SQL server and plenty of IOPS. SMP, very lightweight, no problem virtualizing it anyway. Cloud Gateway we put in last year, and the site server we just use for task offloading. So in our team, really we've got a manager who tries to manage us as best she can. She does a great job. There's got a server admin. We've got me, the Altiris guru, doing the Altiris dev, programming and stuff. There's a window expert who's also here today, Darren. And we got the 3 software packages who work tirelessly to deliver all of our patches out. Oh, I have to go back one. Just to remind you, so the reason why I'm here really, I guess, is because we started using CMS 2006. So we've been through a lot of upgrades over that time. Some have gone well, some have gone badly. We've learned a lot of stuff, trial and error. So I've originally had to the end of the slide deck. Let's move to the beginning in case you fall asleep. So here, everything I'm about to tell you, in fact, more than I'm going to tell you, is in this run book. So when we did our EAP, Symantec asked us to detail our process that we had there because there's a lot of focus on hygiene. So we spent a lot of time documenting the server in advance of the upgrades, making sure we knew exactly how everything was configured, because things organically change in time throughout the year. You'll add things, you'll change things. Go revise your configurations. Make sure that you're familiar with all those aspects. Looking at the logs. It sounds like a really simple, trivial thing to do, but you need to understand those errors, because those errors aren't going to go away, and also it might cause a problem with the upgrade. So make sure that your server is in prime condition, the whole estate really in prime condition before you upgrade. Because you're going to work it hard. The upgrade is going to work it hard. So our process is in that Connect article, which is a Word document attached to it, and that goes through how we did the month of prep that enabled us then to move along and then just do the upgrade over a weekend and then allow us the week of the wash-up. The month of upgrade and planning, there's a lot that you have to do for that. There's not just looking at your server infrastructure and making sure it's okay. It's also about trying to test upgrades. So we had virtual machines spun up, doing the upgrade, seeing what errors we had from doing those upgrades, and then raising semantic support cases, or then fixing things ourselves, and then documenting that, because those things have to be put in after the main upgrade. So we had a list of things to fix that then wouldn't panic us after the upgrade, because we knew and expected those things to happen. That's kind of key, because when you're doing an upgrade and you've got a short window and you need to roll back if you don't pass your criteria, you need to be able to get through all your known issues really quickly that you can fix, because then you're just left with the things that are then the things you didn't expect. And then you can analyze slowly those things, see, are those critical? Do they fail your acceptance testing? And that buys you time. Whereas if you do it off the seat of your pants, you're losing time increasingly, and then you might reach that window where you've got to decide, going to roll back or am I going to commit? Because the user's going to come in next day, what are we doing? So all this preparation is really, really important. Now everything, Thomas has already said, so there's a lot of stuff I'm just not going to mention. I've put here some flames on SMP Diag. SMP Diag, run it on the server, on your SMP, see what it gives you. Read the tech notes that it points to. Just make sure you can commit time, make sure that the people who grant you resource time understand this is stuff you've got to do, because it will just save panics later. Log viewer, I've already mentioned that, got to make sure that that's pretty clean. Next thing is server resource. So when you're going to be doing this upgrade, you can pretty much expect probably this process to be working CPU, RAM, and disks quite a lot. So is now a good time at this point to do some hardware upgrades, schedule those in, talk to your server teams. Can you get more memory? Can you get more CPU? Can you get more disk? If you've been grumbling for a while that your disks are a bit slow, can you change your LUNs? Can you get onto faster storage? Get all those conversations out early so that, again, you don't hit problems on your upgrade day. Building an upgrade checklist. I used to not do this because I thought I could keep it all in my head. As I've gotten older, I've been less capable of keeping this stuff in my head. So Excel spreadsheet, just have everything written down in all the stages, what I've got to do, and then a little button saying yes or no, have I done it? So that's when I get distracted by something, I can go back to the spreadsheet. And there's also things you might go, oh, I'll skip this bit for now. I'm going to change this order because something peculiar has happened. So you're going to go down later in the checklist, but they need to be reminded at the end there's something you didn't do. So having all those yes, no's, and maybe comment areas, that's very useful too. Testing documentation. So you've got teams using your SMP. So it's very handy for you to have your success criteria based on something tangible, like some testing documentation. So you get from your teams what they believe is critical and what their process is, and then you can, after you've done the upgrades, you can test that. You can go through, you can say, the support teams like using Real-Time Manager, they use these
use IT analytics, which is something that nearly always breaks, you've got to fix after an upgrade. So you get all those critical activities, and you get the people then to sign off saying, if these fail, the upgrade fails. You roll back. If these fail, well, as long as you fix that in a week, we're happy. And if these things down here fail, well, we're okay if that's fixed in a month. And that's what we did. So we got this staged approach. So what we were able to do, even though we had some things break following the upgrade, nothing broke that failed the acceptance criteria. And then we were allowed then a month to fix things, but as it happened, it only took about 3 or 4 days to fix after the upgrade. So we gathered that testing documentation, and we had that all contained. So that enabled us then to just very smoothly go through that as a process. So this goes back to what Thomas was saying about really making sure that your system is suitable. So you check for your backups, make sure they're all there. I like to reboot the SMP server. Again, clears those pending file name medium operations, but also something might just randomly break when it fires up after reboot, so I just want to make sure everything's good. After reboot, again, check the logs. Now, we tend to use the Windows firewall a lot to quiesce the server. So we turn off processing on the server, but then we also make sure the firewall's turned off, and that then puts the server into a nice quiet state. The clients cannot possibly connect to it. And then we check the event queue is nice and empty, and then we start doing our server infrastructure snapshots. That then gives us a point where our server infrastructure is in this bubble. So for that weekend, it's in a bubble. And no matter what we do to it, we know we can revert to that state, and everything will be consistent in that bubble. So we can do that only because we've got a small infrastructure. So we're lucky, right? So doing an in-place upgrade, all very simple. People who've got a much more expanded infrastructure won't really have that as an option. So we're quite, we take the benefit of that. So upgrade day. So we've got piles of documentation. At this point, we've got the spreadsheets. We're all happy. Now with the EAP, obviously we had then in the room, we had quality assurance guy, Roman, and it was, I've got to say, for the EAP side, really smooth. Going to 8.1 was an absolute breeze. We did half of it in the pub because it was going so well. We thought, there's no issues here. There was, but tiny ones. But it was so easy, such a breeze, and we felt so relaxed because there's so much preparation that's done, and we knew exactly what we were going to do. Everything was all planned. There was no strain. There was no sweat. So begin next downloading your SMP files in Semantic Installation Manager, and that took, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes. So now I think I missed something. So you got to do the upgrade, and then after the upgrade, you check there's no partial installs in the SMP, and just really simple things. Check services, and then you do the same things. You check the event logs. You just check the server's fine. You check the Altiris logs. And again, just make sure that everything's fine. So at this point, you just upgraded the SMP. Your Windows firewalls have made sure that the clients aren't connecting, but also we firewalled off the site server, cloud gateway stuff as well. So everything's encapsulated in their own bubbles.
So on number 2 there, are there like queries or stuff? Because we've had it where it does not show partial install or need reconfig in SIM, but it was partially installed and did need reconfig. And we didn't see it until we started getting errors from some tables that weren't updated.
The Windows event logs should have given something with the MSIs not taking. I would have expected. So when you do your Windows event log check, there you should see if there's any errors from the MSI installs from all the solution pieces. So that's just part of the hygiene post-install. Just check the logs. So both the Altiris logs and the Windows logs. So yeah, so services are happy and running. Now, at that point, we're happy with the server. So there's a bit here that I've missed out is now we just check some basic functionality and operations in the server. So I have as an admin a set of tasks, which are my checklist of things that I need to be able to do that I can do. So I have those documented. And so what I do is I can go through those and I can sign off my own simple SMP interactions in the console to make sure everything looks fine. We have to check, everybody has to check your targeted agent settings. Things are going to be reset as part of the upgrade process, so you want to make sure that you understand. Now, what you could do is, if you've done good documentation, you should be able to very simply, anything that's changed, go back and just revert it. In the past, we have been caught out by not being thorough, just by assuming that some things wouldn't have changed. Just check everything. So check your installation, agent installation for the plugins, and check the upgrades. It's difficult to see in the console. I think future versions of the console make that easier for you to find where all these things are. If you're a SQL maniac, you might even be able to write your own SQL to get those policies out as a nice form for yourself before the upgrade, and then check that afterwards as well. We prefixed on the targeted settings everything that we use live with on, because that puts them all in one place. So you just go top down, so it's all in one little cluster, rather than having them dotted around, having to scroll down, because if you get a lot of policies over time, some enabled, some not, it gets a bit difficult to see where you are. So before the upgrade, we just prefix them all with on that are active, and then we can then very quickly go through them, check them. This way, it takes about 5 minutes, tiny amount of time, but it stops things from being a problem later on. So we validate then the agent upgrade policies. Always need to refresh the IT Analytics credentials. I don't know why that's always required. It seems that IT Analytics always breaks for that. And as you've been going through again, just take a look at the Windows event logs. Take a look again at the SMP logs. Always keep that open in another window if you can, just so you can see as the server's ticking over doing its operations, just make sure it's happy. And then go on, execute testing plans. So that'll be things like making sure that you're ready to test a single client, so an operation like an inventory. So we would, at this point, open up the firewall, maybe to a single client, and then we'd test the upgrade process. That all works as expected. Brilliant. Tick that. Can we drop a task on it to get inventory? Excellent. We have a dummy software job, which just puts an add remove programs entry into the client registry to just give an increment of a dummy counter. Has that been picked up? Tick, yes, no. So we just test that basic functionality on a single client, making sure we're happy. Now, the reason why we can do that is because the Windows firewall is just letting that one client in. So we just say, just allow that in on HTTP, HTTPS, that single client IP address. So I prefer not to mess with the policies and to change all the targets, because I'm forever then changing all the targets. Whereas I can just go into the Windows firewall, and then I want to open up to 2 clients. I can then open up to 2 very easily, just add in another IP address, and that's then all the agent plugins are valid, and then that client gets upgraded, and everything just goes smoothly. In the end, just increase exposure, so open up to a VPN. When we upgrade the cloud gateway, then we can get the IP address of remote clients using whatismyip.com on the client, see what that IP address, allow that one in on the cloud gateway only, see how that then interacts, see if it goes into cloud-enabled mode nicely, see if it comes back into the site when the VPN's on. Once all that's happy, then we keep ramping up the number of clients and then testing how the logs go. So we then opened up to lots of clients, lots of clients, lots of clients. Everything was happy, everything was smooth. And then the process was done. Smoothest EAP ever.
Thank you, Ian. Can you hear me now? All right, so again, guys, a big round of applause for Ian here. Thank you, sir. So At this point, I'd like to open it up to a quick Q&A before we call this one. Any additional questions that you want answered? Concerns? Go ahead.
Can I get your checklist? Copy of your checklist?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Your upgrades, has it been from 7.1, 7.5, 7.6, or did you
Yes.
at some point break in the middle from when you?
Yeah, so we did 7.5 SP1 to 8 to then SP1. So it's all been in place upgrades. The next upgrade that we do will be on a new platform. So we did that because we're on 2008 R2. So the next one's going to be to a new box.
Are you going to start fresh?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
There's a lot of discussion about, a fresh box, a new box. Can you do that with a hierarchy that already has 6 servers in it?
Yeah, you can do that in hierarchy. Basically, you will have to break the hierarchy first. Obviously,
Sure, you
that's
have 6 NSs in it. You can't have more than 6 NSs in a hierarchy.
okay. I missed the question.
No, so we have 6 NSs in our hierarchy.
Uh-huh.
So how can we do an outbox, a new box upgrade like that and still have hierarchy working with the other ones?
So, basically, what you're talking about is just system approach. I mean, it's just a larger number of net new boxes that you're going to have to do this. But basically, you have to break the hierarchy first.
Well, you turn it off, yeah.
Exactly. And then you'll do the same backup and restore the databases where you need to do them, all that same process to bring them back up, and then you re-enable that hierarchy. Is that not what you're asking? I'm still...
Well, but you're going to have 7 servers in there. Or if we did 6, we'd have 12 servers in there, right? So, I mean, I guess it's probably just not possible avenue for us.
Would you not be replacing servers one by one?
What do you mean?
Well, they have to get
You got the
redirected
hierarchy.
and everything.
You have to break the hierarchy.
Yeah, break the hierarchy and then replace them one by one.
Yeah, you can't, exactly. You
But
replace the
still
parent
you're
first.
redirecting from
The parents
active
first.
ones, and so they're all active. And
Well, they're.
I think in place is the only way you can do it when you have multiple hierarchies and multiple NSs.
Hold on,
Would there be an opportunity for him to reduce the number? Given
Yes.
Well, hopefully, yes.
Yeah, I mean, now remember, I don't know how much you saw from the presentations today. 8.0 introduced basically a higher performance scalability numbers, right? It's not, you're not now bound or limited by 20,000 endpoints on a single SMP. Now you could do potentially up to 50,000 given the appropriate hardware platform, configuration settings. I'm not going to get as aggressive when it comes to inventories and things like that. So you have to dial things back down. Ideally, you should be on that sweet spot of 35,000 endpoints on an SMP. I would say that's probably more ideal while continuing to remain with those certain settings that you have today and get some just performance, right? But yes, we did, I'm not going to name them right here, but we did, last year when we did an 8.0 EAP, one of our customers is here actually participated, Cardinal Health. I'll mention them because they're a reference. We collapsed their hierarchy. They were on 1 by 3. We went back to a single notification server, basically 35,000 endpoints. And we did it just by collapsing we basically collapsed the hierarchy. We removed the hierarchy components, and then we did, again, redirects, right? We used that whole redirect methodology. And then for servers, and in this case, now with the database stuff, you will upgrade the main databases you want to upgrade first. And then for the ones that you don't want to, say, upgrade them, but you instead want to bring those agents over into the fold, then that's when you do the, replication rules, and you bring them over to the server. Does that make sense? To a new server. So there is a way, we just got to plan it. We just got to work through your architecture, and if you need any help, we can definitely do that, right? Just help you design your plan and your architecture design and make sure that we have basically a process to get you there. Okay? Hopefully that. Yeah, but it's
we'd like to get away from having 2 hierarchies.
yeah, but it's totally doable. There's nothing stopping us from doing it. Much in the same way. Yeah. Okay. Any additional questions? Nothing? Going once? Going twice? Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.